Hey everyone, my name is David Rao and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm excited to be on tonight to be sharing one of my favorite lessons for second grade and talking a little bit about how I use that and what I'm planning to do with this. Just super fun lesson, how I plan to integrate it into a program in the second semester, so in the spring semester. So I'm going to talk a little about how I'm planning to teach it now so I can bring it back later. I also have a couple of books I really am excited about sharing. I'll get to those in just a second. So first, where can you find the books, resources, puppets, all the stuff that I talk about in these videos? If you go to makemomentsmatter.org and check on the links page under the video tab, you can find all the links for all the videos or all the things I share in these videos. If you're interested, you can also find at the bottom of the caption wherever you're listening to, watching this video, you can find the link to the links page if you're interested for anything I share in any of these videos. You can also check out my Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Community. There's a place for you there where you can ask questions, find new friends, and learn stuff together. It's a great place to come together and connect. Okay, one more thing. I'm so excited. If you are an Iowa music teacher, I'm going to see you this weekend. Can't wait to present at Iowa Music Educators Association State Conference this Friday and Saturday. I think it's 2 sessions Friday and 1 on Saturday. Maybe flip-flop, I can't remember. I think that's right. But anyway, if you're an Iowa music teacher, I can't wait to see you. Let's hang out and chat and have fun this weekend. And if you're ever interested and you're like, hey, where can I, there are workshops or whatever, check out my blog, makemomentsmatter.org, check the About Me page, and I try and list all the workshops and things I'm doing there in case you're interested. Okay, let me talk about 2 new books that I don't think I've ever talked about on here, which is really exciting. And then I'm going to start sharing about Aiken Drum and how I use that song, how I'm using it right now, and also how I'm going to bring it back in the spring. Okay, so this first book I found a couple years ago. Actually, it was at AOSA National Conference, except it was not actually at the conference. It was like in between sessions. My friend Karen and I were at a bookstore, and I randomly found it, and I got a copy, and I didn't know how to use it for a long time, so I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I bought it because it's called The Parrot Song, and maybe there is an actual parrot song that I should know, but I don't. And so anyway, I thought, what a fun book. So I got the book. So it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, repeat after me. There once was a little cloud. It's a green cloud. I love that. On the next page, in gray letters, it says, there once was a little cloud. It rained every color. It rained every color. Red, yellow, green, and blue. Red, yellow, green, and blue. So the flowers grew and grew. So it's like an echo book, right? And like we do stuff like this all the time. If there's an actual parrot song that I am missing out on, be like, oh, David, you didn't learn the parrot song growing up? It's this exact book that is now illustrated. I don't know that. So what I've been doing with my students is I've been just doing it as like an echo, but I'm trying to, in my younger grades, Can1, especially, to reinforce like so me la. And so I just sing this on that interval and I have them echoing. So there once was a little cloud. There once was a little cloud. It rained every color. It rained every color. Red, yellow, green, and blue. Red, yellow, green, and blue. So the flowers grew and grew. And the kids echo me. Ready for us to pick a few. It's a little tricky in a couple places. And bring them all the way to you. Bring them all the way to you. Knock, 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 may I come in? Knock, 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 may I come in? Here's a gift for my friend Tim. Here's a gift for... He gave to me a box of blue. Gave to me a box of blue. And 3 cheeky parrots popped up. Peekaboo. They are the ones who taught me how. They're the ones who taught me how to sing the parrot song. Let's all sing together now. Okay, it's not the best song. There are moments in it that are really fun, but it works really well for kids to echo and sing back. The other thing that I like is to connect this to oh my, no more pie. So if you do oh my, no more pie, no more pie. Pie's too sweet, pie's too sweet. I want a piece of meat, I want a piece of meat. This has the same sort of structure as that, in that it has like, you're asking the kids to repeat back after you, and then the poem structure is two lines that rhyme, two lines that rhyme, two lines that rhyme. So, there once was a little cloud that it rained every color, red, yellow, green, and blue. So the flowers grew and grew, ready for us to pick a few and bring them all the way to you. So it's like, it's fun that it rhymes. You could make a connection with like, what else could we say in here? What else would rhyme? What else would work? So it's a super fun little book, but I've been using it mostly just to sing and have them echo back on that so mi la interval. You could do anything you want. I mean, this would be fun to see if they could just echo back any sort of phrase. Red, yellow, green, and blue. You know, if you wanted to extend the range or change the pitches, you do. So the flowers grew and grew, ready for us to pick a few. If you wanted where you just taught do, if you've done so mi la and you're adding do, this would be fun to like sing as a so mi la song and then bring back later as so mi la and do, maybe in the spring flowers, I don't know. But it's just a super fun book. It's an older book, so I bought it and I got it used, and I think I paid like $3. Because I bought it used on a used book website, but it's a little bit older, 2016, 2017, so you should be able to find copies. But it looks like the version I have is maybe originally published in the UK, but I know that it is available also in the US. Anyway, I linked it on the links page in case you're interested, you want to learn more about that. This is one that I found this next book is one I found at my Scholastic Book Fair a year ago. So the book fair that came through my school, and I wanted to share it with you. It's called One Day in the Eucalyptus Tree by Daniel Bernstrom, pictures by Brendan Wenzel. So I know this one is around because if I found it at the book fair, that means there are probably 100,000 copies floating around, paperback or hardcover, whatever, different options. One day in the leaves of the eucalyptus tree hung a scare in the air where no eye could see. When along skipped a boy in a whirly-twirly toy to the shade of the eucalyptus tree. Down, down slid the snake from the leaves of the tree and gobbled up the boy with his whirly-twirly toy one day in the eucalyptus tree. And it'd be funny if I stopped there and was like, yeah, so that's why you can't bring any toys to music, because you could get eaten by a snake. I mean, I would never do that. But like, what if you stopped there and were like, so this is a cautionary tale, end of story. Just kidding. I'll bet, said the boy in the belly dark and deep, that you're still very hungry and there's more that you can eat. Do you think, said the snake to the boy with the toy, that there's room for something yummy with you inside my tummy? Cheep, cheep, came a chirp from the leaves of the tree. Oh, a bird with a worm in a game of hide and seek. Sneaky slidey zipped the snake from his place in the leaves and gobbled up the bird and her ooey gooey worm one day in the eucalyptus tree. I'll bet, said the boy in the belly dark and deep, that you're still very hungry and there's more that you can eat. Purr, purr, came a stir from the leaves of the tree. Ooh, a cat in a nap on his furry, furry back. Under over slid the snake from his place in the leaves and gobbled up the cat in a dozy, cozy nap one day in the eucalyptus tree. Oh, surely, very surely, Mr. Snake, said the boy. There is room, still more room, so much more to enjoy. Crinkle, wrinkle came a rustle from the leaves of the tree. Oh, a sloth, cloaked in moss, sipping leafy, leafy tea. Wiggle, waggle stretched the snake from his place in the leaves and gobbled up the sloth covered in fuzzy, wuzzy moss one day in the eucalyptus tree. So, okay, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it keeps going. And so he eats a lot of things. Let's see what else he eats. So he eats the sloth. He eats an ape. He eats a bear. And then the boy's like, oh, sure, you got more room. Then he eats an entire, like a hive of bees. Bad decision. And the boy's like, I bet there's more room. And then he eats a teeny tiny fly. And that fly is like basically all he can handle. And then he burps everything back up and everything comes back out. So I just finished doing Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly with first grade. And basically once I read that once, then all throughout the rest of the year, I pepper in books that are Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly themed or are very, very close. And so, there's one, I shared this before. I have a whole page on Amazon, my Amazon ideas list page. You don't have to buy anything from Amazon, but you can just like see they're all listed in one place. All these Old Lady Who Swallowed a whatever books. So like Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly, Old Lady Who Swallowed a Pie, Old Lady Who Swallowed, all sorts of stuff. And some of them are different. Like there was an old cowpoke who swallowed a whatever, or there was an old dragon who swallowed a knight. Different stuff. This one is cool because it's the same idea of that adding, but not exactly the same, and not exactly the same singing. So you could try and sing it. I actually haven't tried. One day in the leaves of the eucalyptus tree hung a scare in the air where no eye could see. When along skipped a boy with a whirly-twirly toy to the shade of the eucalyptus tree. I mean, I don't know. You could maybe figure out the way to do that if you really wanted to sing it. I think it's fun. This is one especially that I might put in a sub-tub or a sub-lesson where like maybe the sub doesn't want to sing. This one you don't have to sing, but it's that same format. And then you could have them compare, contrast. How is this similar or different to the Old Lady Who Swallowed a Fly? The version that they know, the version they learned. It'd be fun to have them compare that. The other cool thing in this book is that it has so many fun action words that they could act out. Crinkle, wrinkle came a rustle from the leaves. Okay. Slurp, burp came a belch from the leaves of the tree. Okay. Twist, twist bent the snake. Up, up, snake the snake. He's always moving in sort of interesting ways. Let's see, what's that? Creaky, eeky, inch the snake. I mean, there are so many cool words that you could pull out of here to inspire movement or get kids moving in new and interesting ways. So, super, super fun book. If you wanted to just compare it to Old Lady Who Swallowed or whatever, you could. Or if you wanted to like make a whole movement lesson out of it, you absolutely could. If you could even just, with an older grade, you could bring it back and like write some of those words. Creaky, eeky, inch the snake. Up, up, snake the snake. What's the other one that I saw in here? Sneaky, slidey, zipped the snake. And some of these words are highlighted, like the author really wants you to know them. So if you made like a word bank with those highlighted words and then had them recreate the story or come up with a movement based on that, it would be really, really just super fun and super cool. So anyway, One Day in the Eucalyptus Tree. This is by Daniel Bernstrom, and Brendan Wenzel did the illustrations. And it's fairly new, so I'm sure you could find a copy if you're interested. Okay, let's jump ahead to second grade, what I'm doing right now. So second grade, my plan for our concert, for our big musical program in the spring is food and food-related stuff. So I have a whole host of lessons that I'm teaching now that I plan to bring back in the spring and sort of pull together to make a concert out of it. So one of those that I'm going to do is Aiken Drum, and we're learning it right now. So in the first lesson, before I even talk about the song, before I get to the song, I share the story. And so part of that for me, anytime I share a folk song especially, or any old song, I always try and talk about the history. I try and talk a little bit about some of the other cultural factors, things that I know about the song to help give kids context. Because I feel like if we're going to teach a kid an older song, or any song, if it uses vocabulary that's maybe not as familiar, if it gives a place that's maybe not as familiar, we should talk about it with them so that they get a better understanding of like what those places are. So anyway, I have this favorite folk song set I'm going to try and pull up and show y'all. So this is a set that I just use when I'm teaching the song so that I can give a little bit more history and context. Ooh, gosh, that is really sort of hard to see. Okay, and so this just goes through, and on the first page, there's just, like a title page, Aiken Drum. We talk about where it's from, so the song is originally from Scotland, at least that's what the research we have so far tells us. You can trace this song back to when it was first published in the year 1820. Although they think that it comes from a poem that's actually from 1715. So instead of 200 years old, it's maybe 300 years old, although they can't quite trace that down or track all that down. Sometimes we talk about it's a silly song, but I usually don't hit this slide until a little bit later because I want to talk about I want them to know the song before we talk about what the song is. So the cool thing is you can just drag around and move these slides around if you want them. So what I do first, actually, is I show them this picture of the moon, and I say, for years and years, people have talked about, they look up at the sky and they see the moon, and we talk about the moon, and what do you see in the moon? And some people say, oh man, well, if I look at the moon, I see a big smiley face. Or someone says, I look at the moon and I see a bowling ball. Or someone looks at the moon and says, I see a tennis ball or a golf ball. Or I see, I don't see that at all. I see a cookie. Or, what else could you see? Sometimes we'll have like a 2-second discussion. When you look at the moon, what do you see? And I say, well, a long time ago, this song we're about to learn is a couple hundred years old. And when this song first came out, they didn't have the technology or the telescopes or all the things that we have now. They didn't have all of that to really see the moon, so they didn't really know what it was. And so back then, some people would look up and they'd say, oh, the moon, it's made of cheese. It looks like cheese. It's cheese. It's because it's, that cheese with the holes in it, the Swiss cheese. Yeah, that's what it is. It's got to be that. And some people say, no. It's not that. It's a ball, right? Or it's a rock, or they didn't really know as well as we do now. Well, all over the world for hundreds of years, people have had ideas about what's in the moon, or they look at the moon and they say, okay, well, we know it's the moon, but what do we see on there? And for hundreds of years, people have had these different ideas of what is on the moon. And so these are just a couple of the things from around the world that is like maybe the most prevalent things that people have talked about, they've seen. So the first one is like a man with carrying a yoke on his shoulder, who has some sort of burden on his shoulder with his dog next to him. A lot of people see a rabbit like sort of bent over, or a face, or a different face, or a woman wearing a necklace. So once we look at those, kids are like, what? So I go back to the image of the moon and I sort of trace out or sort of help them see. So I might, point to different things and say like, oh yes, this, or can you see here are the eyes, or here are the other parts. So we go through and we talk about some of those things. And then we move on and tell the story. Before I switch off this page, I'll show you what else is included here. So there's the slide that talks about, it's a silly song. It's not a real song. When we go through and talk about some of the traditional verses, I have images for those, like cream cheese, roast beef, penny loaves. Some people do this where they make it out of instruments from the music room. So I have a sort of an example of what maybe that would look like. One of the traditional verses is haggis bags, and none of my kids know what haggis is. So I have a picture of, I have a description of what it is, and then also a picture of what haggis looks like when you're eating it. Also, breeches do show up, the term breeches, so I have that on there as well. Okay, those are just some of the things that are included in there that you could talk about. Not that you necessarily have to talk about, but you could talk about if you wanted. So once we've talked about just the man on the moon and what could you see, I say, well, hundreds of years ago in Scotland, people said, kids said, what is that up at? Okay, in my class, I attempt a Scottish accent. It is so bad. I am not going to do it on this video. But just know that in real life, in my classroom, I do try an accent. Anyway, so hundreds of years ago, kids said, what is that up there? And the adult said, oh, it's the moon. Well, what is it? Oh, well, it's made of cheese, obviously, right? It's cheese? Well, yeah, and it's not just cheese. It's actually a man. Aiken. It's Aiken Drum. Aiken Drum? Yeah, he's made of cheese. He's made of cheese? Oh, yeah, Aiken Drum. He's made of cheese. Yeah. And he likes making music, too. He does? What does he do? Does he sing? Oh, yeah, he sings and he plays an instrument. What kind of instrument does he play? Oh, does he play a ukulele or fiddle? Does he play a fiddle? No, well, he's made of cheese, so he plays a spoon. A spoon. What kind of spoon? Oh, ladle, because it's got to be a bit. So we talk about what a ladle is. It's like you dip soup out of a big bowl with a ladle. Anyway. Yeah, and we got a song about it too. You have a song about it too? Yeah, it goes like this. There was a man lived in the moon, lived in the moon, lived in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. Okay, well, so he was made of cheese? Oh, yeah, he was made of cheese. And then the kids would ask, well, okay, but what is his shirt made out of? And the adults didn't have an answer for that. They had not thought ahead for that. So the adults are like, oh, his shirt is made of... What could you make a shirt out of? That's food. It's made out of roast beef. Because if you take roast beef and you slice it really thin, like you could maybe imagine making a shirt out of that and sewing it together. Lady Gaga did a meat dress, so like, I don't know, maybe you could. Anyway, so what I say to kids is like, if you ever had like a sandwich with like roast beef or like sliced cheese, like or ham or whatever, if you take those really thin slices, you could maybe sew that together and make a shirt out of it. I mean, it would feel gross and it'd smell, but you could. So anyway, that's what they said. His shirt was made of roast beef. Or his coat was made of roast beef. His coat was made of roast beef, of roast beef, of roast beef. His coat was made of roast beef, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. He played upon a ladle, and his name was Aiken Drum. Now today for this, for tonight, I'm playing this in G, in the key of G. You could play it in whatever. In my classroom, I've been doing it in F. But when I do it in G, I do G, C, G, and then D9, basically, as my 5 chord. But you could play it in F, you could play it in whatever key feels the best for you. If you would do it on ukulele or piano or whatever, or just a cappella, you might do it differently. Anyway, do what works best in your classroom. Tonight I'm playing it in G, because it sings well for me there. So, then the kids ask the adults, well, what are his pants made out of? If his shirt is made of roast beef and he's made of cheese, what are his pants made out of? Oh, man, his pants are made of haggis. For kids, I don't usually, the first time say, his pants are made of, I don't know. They're made out of tamales. They're made out of tamales? Yeah, they're made out of tamales. And then we sing that verse, And I say, actually, this is really crazy. Some of the things they came up with are really weird. Like they said that his hat was made out of cream cheese. How do you make a hat out of cream cheese? I don't know. Because I feel like it'd get all gloopy and fall off his head. Like, how would you even do that? And then they said that his shirt was, or his waistcoat, like his vest sort of thing, they said it was made out of crust pies. How do you make a vest out of pie? I don't even know how you do that. Wouldn't it fall off? And then they said his buttons. Oh, well, you needed something sort of round for buttons. And the kids at this point are like, cookies, chips. Like they're throwing out answers. And I'm like, yeah, you know what they said? They said that like little tiny like bread rolls. They call them penny loaves. These little tiny ones. They made his buttons out of that. What? I'm like, I know. Isn't that crazy? Like if you're gonna make something like that, if you're gonna make like, okay, let's say you're gonna make like a vest for him. Well, then you got to come up with something that like at least you could sew together, like tortilla. You could make a vest out of a tortilla, or maybe lettuce, sliced cheese. Like if you're gonna try and make clothes out of food, you got to think about what would really work, right? Like so if you, let's say you're gonna make a vest for him. Would you say, oh, I'm gonna make that out of soup? No, you wouldn't say that because it'd all just slide right off. Like that doesn't make any sense. Okay, so if you're gonna make your own vest for Aiken Drum, what could you use? And so then that's like our jump into, we're just going to scrap their version because their version's fine. And I actually do go through some of the traditional verses and talk through, and we sing through some of them. But then we get creative on our own. Now, I have an app on my iPad. I'm going to try and show y'all, see if it works. Because, when I try new technology in here, it always works so well. No, it doesn't. But I'm going to try. So this app is called Sketches. And the version I use is called Sketches School. I've looked before. It has always been free when I've looked for it in the App Store. So if you're interested, you can usually find it for free. There is like a pro version, but the free version I get a ton out of. Now, I use my iPad in my classroom. I'm able to mirror it using an Apple TV. So whatever shows up on my iPad screen will show up on the big screen. So for me, this is pretty easy to manipulate. But let me just sort of show you what I do with it. If I can flip this around. Okay, so, all right, so here's what's on my iPad. Sorry, Instagram, you're getting a sort of a odd version. Okay, so this is sketches. You can actually see some of the ones that we came up with today. So what I do in my class is that I go through, and as they come up with solutions or ideas for Aiken Drum, I do my very best to draw them. They're not always great, but I think kids are more interested in the let's try it and see what happens rather than, oh wow, Mr. Rao's the best artist. Like, they don't care as much about that. And it's sort of a fun challenge for me. So like, okay, so this is the one that Mrs. Dolan's class came up with today. They came, and I always start with the head and work down. So if we run out of time, at least we can get a head, eyes, nose, and a mouth. And so the head is a chocolate donut, and you could use like a stick pull app. You can use like a random chooser. I just have my class roster, and I just randomly choose names with an app. So that no kid feels like, oh, well, he's just choosing kids who raise their hand or whatever. I just like randomly let it choose. So the kids chose, his head is a chocolate donut. And we talk about the very first one. I was like, if you're going to do something for his head, it needs to be something that can be like head shaped. So it either needs to be round or like a globe or like a ball sort of a shape. But we're using food. So like, think like, I don't know, what could we use? Watermelon or tortilla or a super huge cookie, or like, what else could it be? So the kid came up with a donut. I was like, a donut, like with the hole in the middle? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay. So we did it. His head was a chocolate donut. His eyes were oranges. His nose was a piece of cheese pizza. His mouth, okay, that kid chose piece of cake. And I was like, yeah, so that's not super mouth shaped, but okay, we're going to make it work. Then the next kid was like, all right, let's throw another curveball at you. We're going to make a shirt out of knives because you said we could use kitchen utensils as well. It's like, okay, so we made a shirt out of knives, which I think worked pretty well. And then his legs out of pickles and his feet out of bacon. This is basically about as far as we get in my classes. If we get any further, we start adding other elements like hands, hair, a belt, buttons, things like that, if we have time. But the bare minimum is a head, eyes, nose, mouth, and then shirt, pants, shoes if we can. Another class that went today did not get that far. They got a head, eyes, nose, mouth. And then when I navigated away from the screen to like look something up on Google, everything went away. That was the one thing about sketches today that was like frustrating. So I had to redraw, so we ran out of time. His shirt was made of roast beef, which I was adding details as we went and then didn't quite get there. They made his head out of strawberry cake. Okay, so we went with it, and then his mouth was macaroni. His eyes were a different kind of macaroni, the shells, and his nose was a strawberry. So, like, you never know what they're going to come up with. But as we go, so, like, I'm on the app. As they go, I can change the colors here. So I have basically any color I want. Right now I'm using the marker function, so I can do a medium line, a small line, a big line. So depending on what it is I want to do, what I want to draw, I should have the availability to do that. There are other brushes that do other things. This one's sort of fun for texture. So like depending on what it is you want to make, or if you want to fill in color, this one's sort of nice. But the app is really cool so that you can create basically anything you want to. In the first lesson, I animate and I make the things, but as I'm drawing, they have to sing it. That's sort of my rule. So, a kid says, oh, and then his shirt is made of whatever. Okay, then as I'm drawing it, they have to sing his shirt, da, 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 and they also have to sing the part that goes, and he played upon a ladle, a ladle, a ladle. So as I'm working frantically, they're singing, and it works pretty well. And we get through as many kids as we can. They are enamored. They love. I think you could do this on your whiteboard with markers. That would probably be easier. But I'm trying on the iPad just so I can have a record, and then I can also send a picture of what we've created through Seesaw. I know I could take a picture of the board, but like this is me trying to like use my resources. Anyway, and so I send that out to parents, and it's like shows them a little bit what's happening. The next steps are, in the next lesson, I put them into small groups out 2 or 3 or 4, depending on what I want to do. And then they have to create their own Aiken drum. They have to have a head, body, eyes, nose, mouth. If they have extra, I make a column like on one side, like must-haves, can-haves. So must-haves are like head, body, legs, like torso, legs, eyes, nose, mouth. Can-haves, hair, hat, belt, accessory things, watch, I don't know. And then they get to go through and make those. And then if we have time, we'll share some of those out at the end of what they've created. So what I'm planning on doing is to save those things they create in the next lesson and bring them back to share at our concert. So we can go through and we can talk about, I'm not exactly sure how I want to do this. We can either create in the moment and kids can come up together, or we can have the audience choose a thing and we can sing it as we make it. That might be hilarious. I don't know. But by the time we're done with this lesson, the kids know the framework of the song. They know sort of how it works. They get the idea. And then also they have the ownership of creating their own Aiken drums, which they love. And this becomes a lesson that they're like, yes, and they want to do it all the time. And so it's just fun to get to try some of that out with them. It is food themed. It is historical. It's super fun, pretty singable too. And like I said, it's just a crowd pleaser for kids, whether you do it in small groups, whether you do it for larger groups. There are, like, if you do like small groups create or the whole class together creates, there's a lot that you can do. Rebecca says, what target success criteria for admin should I be able to verbalize? That depends on your grade level and it depends on your curriculum, I guess. So a couple things that I would highlight is they're singing, we're improvising new verses in time. They are creating and connecting to history and culture. They're creating and connect. If they're drawing an image, like a token of what they've created, then they're creating artifacts. They're also connecting art to music. I mean, they're also using critical thinking skills, thinking about what foods, objects, things would work with those different body parts. So, but those are all different sort of things that you could say, but it can also be a singing standard. It could also be a history and culture standard. It just depends. Sorry, Rebecca, I can't give you a firm answer. It depends on you and your curriculum and what they expect to hear, what language they expect to hear. But I think any of those standards could be things that you can draw in depending on how you use the song. Okay, so Aiken Drum is super great. Like I said, if you're interested in that PowerPoint that I put together with all like the history and culture and things, that's on my TPT store, but it's on the links page if you're interested, if you want to look and see more. But for me, it's just really helpful because it has history of the song, vocabulary, all the stuff that I'm like, oh, I got to look up a picture of haggis or whatever. Like it's all there so that then when I go and I'm ready to teach, I can just pull up and I can put in the slides I want, take out the ones I don't, and sort of use that for however works for me. I can also, as I'm sending home on Seesaw, I can take a couple pictures of those things and send that home to parents too to give them a little bit more context if they don't already know the song, which many of them won't. Okay, I hope this was helpful, gave you some ideas. I hope you'll check out these two books I started with, The Parrot Song and then also One Day in the Eucalyptus Tree. Super fun. Check those out. See if your library maybe has them, or get a used copy for yourself. They're really fun to play with. And let me know if you do something else with those that's not what I suggested tonight. Let me know. I'd love to hear sort of how you're using it and what I can do differently to try out for my own kids. Okay, everyone, if you're in Iowa, I will see you this Friday and Saturday at Iowa Music Educators. Otherwise, I hope I will see the rest of you next Monday for another Musical Mondays video. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming along with me tonight. Have a great night.